Hey internet, Acid Jane here, and welcome to another speed build. Now, before I say anything else, I want to apologize because this is the first speed build that I've uploaded to my channel since Get Famous came out, and the reason for that is because when Get Famous came out, I did the same thing that I did when Seasons came out, and that was that I got so overwhelmed with all of the new content, and I had so many ideas about what I wanted to do with it that I just kept ending up doing too much, and so I had to scrap like 4 or 5 builds before I finally completed one that I was happy with, and that was this build that we've got going on here today. So as you can see from the title of this video, today I am building an Art Deco dream house. So I'm not exactly sure what the Art Deco style is because the more I read about it, the more it seems like it's a lot of things. But what I think is most distinctive about the Art Deco architectural style is, one, how much it was influenced by Cubism, because Art Deco style has a lot of geometrical shapes that are really fantastical, and two, all of the materials that tend to be used in the Art Deco style. So there were a lot of new materials that were non-existent until around the time of like the 1920s and 30s, materials like chrome and steel and concrete and stuff like that. So I think that Art Deco style tried to utilize those materials as much as possible and tried to experiment with the kind of shapes that those materials can create. So from what I've been reading about Art Deco style, it seems like there were two main periods of Art Deco. There was early Art Deco style, which tended to be pretty lavish and which tended to utilize a lot of really expensive materials like ivory and gold and furs. And then there was later Art Deco style, which tended to be more streamlined and less ornate, and that period of Art Deco style was largely influenced by the 1930s with the Great Depression and whatnot. So yeah, this build is kind of both of those styles. So the exterior of this build is, well, it's not austere because it ends up being bright pink, as you'll see here in just a minute. But the exterior is pretty simple, and it does use a lot of very simple lines. The interior, however, is pretty ornate. I use a lot of the bougie items that came with Get Famous, a lot of gold lamps, a lot of mirrors everywhere. There are marble floors. It's pretty fancy. But the reason why I'm calling this an Art Deco dream house is because this looks like a Barbie dream house. I mean, you'll see more what I mean when the exterior turns pink, but who else is gonna live in this house but Barbie? This house was actually inspired by a picture that I saw, which I will insert right here. I think that house is in Portugal, and as soon as I saw it, I knew that that's what I wanted to build because it just seemed like the perfect house to use all of the new things that we got with Get Famous in. And also, I had really been wanting to experiment with the Art Deco style, so that house seemed like a really great place to start. If you want to download this build, it is available on the gallery. My origin ID is AcidJaneYT. It contains no custom content. It utilizes mostly items from Get Famous and Spa Day. There are a lot of Spa Day items in this build actually, and a lot of items from the Vintage Glamour Stuff pack. I found while working on this build that the Vintage Glamour Stuff pack went really well with Get Famous. I am really pleased with everything that we got with Get Famous. As you probably already know, the pack includes a ton of Art Deco inspired items, a ton of mid-century modern items, a ton of just plain weird items, and the gameplay is really fun. I really want to do something with gameplay on my channel. I'm just a little bit worried about what it's gonna be like recording gameplay, because when I've done Let's Plays in the past, recording them has kind of been a chore just because my computer runs so slowly and so the Sims tend to freeze out a lot, but I would really love to do something like that. I have an idea, and it's a really good one, this idea that I have for a Let's Play, but we'll just have to see. It's gonna require a lot of prep work, so I'll probably spend the next couple of weeks doing that, but I'll try to record the first episode, and if the recording process isn't too bad, so if my computer can actually handle it, I will release that Let's Play. But I'm not going to make any promises about that because, yeah, if it's not fun for me to record, it's not going to be fun for you to watch. So it's a really good idea, though, and I really would like to release it on my channel. If I can't do that, I'll probably play out the story that I have in my mind anyway. I'll just do it in screenshots on Twitter or something like that. You can see now that this build is bright pink. I did hesitate about the pink for a while because, as I already showed you, the inspiration picture that I had featured a pink house, but I don't know. I really love color, but a whole pink house it's a lot of pink. So I was kind of tempted to shy away from it and choose a more muted pastel color, but in the end I just decided might as well go for it. So my boyfriend actually, when he saw me building this house, asked me, what is that monster? So you may think this is a monster too. I think that it's a beautiful little monster. So this was actually the first successful build that I completed with terrain tools. So not just the Get Famous pack, but with terrain tools too. And I had a lot of fun experimenting with the terrain tools. So I think that I might upload a tutorial of sorts featuring the terrain tools because it seems like a lot of people are having trouble getting used to them. I have not had an easy time, but after some experimenting, I found that they were pretty intuitive. The reason why I say I'd like to upload a tutorial of sorts is because, yeah, I'm no expert with the terrain tools, but I think that maybe just describing how I find myself using them, so when I use the raise tool, when I use the flatten tool, instances in which you might use another tool, I think that maybe uploading that sort of tutorial might be helpful for people who are really struggling with the terrain tools and who just need, you know, like a leg up to get to that plateau so then they could start experimenting with them more. So I really would like to upload that tutorial. Hopefully I'll be able to get that out sometime next week. I don't know, my schedule's been pretty busy, so I hesitate to make any promises, but that is something that I would like to do. If you're really interested in that, let me know in the comments, and that'll give me the kick in the butt that I need to get that done faster. I find it funny that I have found the terrain tools to be pretty intuitive because, as I've said before, and as you can see here, I am not that great at using the terrain paint, and so I was really afraid that I was going to be really slow to learn how to use the terrain tools just because, I don't know, changing the heights of the terrain seems like a harder thing to do than painting the terrain, but for whatever reason, I am better at using the terrain tools than I am at using the terrain paint. So speaking of the terrain paint, you can see that I am using it just to create a little bit of dimension by outlining the house, by outlining the walkways and the porches. And then I use the terrain paint to create a path leading up to the house that connects all of those different levels of steps together. And I also create this big rounded gravel area in between the second and third sets of steps where I place that really ornate fountain that we got with Get Famous. I'm really proud of how the exterior of this build came out. I think it did pretty well with the landscaping, with the terrain paint, and with the style of house. There's one thing about this lot, however, that really annoys me, and that is that the cul-de-sac that is in front of this lot isn't completely rounded because for some reason the Sims team decided to include this little path that leads up to the center of the house, but we have no tiles or no objects to match that path. So I just kind of had to ignore it to make it work. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It would have been so much nicer if it were a round cul-de-sac and it didn't have that little lip of sidewalk leading up to it. But anyway, I guess that's a really small detail. And in the grand scheme of things, it's really not that noticeable in this build. So I'm just about to move on to the interior of this build, and I'll warn you now that there are a lot of cuts in the video when I get to the interior because there are a lot of rooms inside this house, and this video would have been way, way longer, almost twice as long if I had not made those cuts. Also, I feel like there's no point in me talking about the interior too much because you can kind of just see it for yourself. I will point out a few things that I did that I really like, however. But now, instead of talking more about the build, I'd just like to talk to y'all about life and whatnot. I have been working a lot lately. Like I have said before, it's the busy season. The busy season lasts until the end of December, when people stop having their Christmas parties and their Christmas shows and things. I actually, at the theater where I work, have been doing lights for the Nutcracker. I have been doing some lighting design, and also I've been running the board for the Nutcracker, and so I've been watching the Nutcracker like a lot. I've watched it many, many times. I had seen the Nutcracker before, but I guess it wasn't until I had to watch it again and again and again in a short period of time that I realized how kind of, dumb the story of the Nutcracker is. In my experience, ballets and operas tend to have stories that really aren't that great. They're usually just about the music and about the dancing, but the Nutcracker story, I mean, it really kind of takes the cake for stories that don't make much sense or aren't really that fleshed out. So if you haven't seen the Nutcracker, or if you have and you just want to hear what I think about it, here's how the story of the Nutcracker goes. So the Nutcracker is a story of a girl named Clara who is given a nutcracker for Christmas while at a party, and she's given the Nutcracker by a man who seems to be a homeless toy maker. So he gives her this gift of a Nutcracker, which, what a gift for, a little girl, right? But anyway, she seems to really like it, and she falls asleep that night, and then she starts to dream that mice attack her, and while she's dreaming that mice are attacking her, in her dream, the Nutcracker comes to life, and he brings an army that helps fight back the mice, and then he takes off his helmet, and it turns out he's a real man, and so she and the Nutcracker leave the stage together. So that's the end of Act 1. In Act 2, there's a blizzard, and a lot of birds dancing in the blizzard, and the Nutcracker and the little girl show up in this blizzard, and the birds give them a sled, and then they wave goodbye to the birds. End of Act 2. In Act 3, the Nutcracker takes the little girl to see this fairy queen. She's the sugar plum fairy, and apparently in her kingdom, everybody has to dance a lot and dance for her a lot. So she sees the Nutcracker. He tells her that he used to be a Nutcracker, but now he's a real man. And she's like, whoa, that's really cool. And he's like, oh yeah, I also brought this really girl. And she's like, hello, little girl. Would you like to sit on my throne and watch my minions dance for you? And then that's what happens. And then after a lot of dances of characters who are apparently all sweets, because they're all named after different kinds of sweets. But apparently, after her minions have danced for this little girl, the Sugar Plum Fairy comes out and she's like, oh yeah, but I'm the best dancer of them all. And then she does her dance, and then the Nutcracker comes back out and he's like, well, little girl, it's been fun, but I'm gonna hang out with this fairy queen for now. Goodbye. End of ballet. So yeah, that's the story of the Nutcracker. It's not the greatest story in the world. The dances are really beautiful. The music is really beautiful. I'm kind of surprised after watching it again at the music, because, how did Fantasia pass these copyright laws? Because almost every song in the Nutcracker is also in Fantasia. But I don't know. I don't understand these sort of things. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing lately. I have been working the Nutcracker, watching the Nutcracker a lot. The ballet company is mostly kids, but they're really good, so it actually is pretty fun to watch, and it's also really nice to listen to because, like I said, the music is beautiful. Lighting for dance is always challenging, so that's made it pretty interesting. But yeah, it's overall been pretty fun. A lot of very long days, but pretty fun. Oh, I'll talk more about what has been going on in my life in just a second, but first of all, I want to point out this really cool pattern that I made out of 3 shades of a marble floor tile. So I used a tan shade, a white shade, and a black shade, and I was able to create this very Art Deco star print, and I'm really happy with how it came out. If you're wondering how I did that, I used 2 controls. One is Control F, and that allows you to place triangles rather than whole square tiles. And the other command or control that I use, the other cheat that I used, is it a cheat? I don't think it's a cheat. Anyway, the other one that I used is control and then the arrow key, and that allows you to rotate the tiles. So the control F key was what was really important there. And also, I think that if you want to create a design in the floor, it's probably best to try to use 3 different shades or 3 different kinds of tiles to create that design, just so you have like a dark, middle, and a light, because I think that having those things is going to give it the most dimension. I don't know, I've tried to create patterns in the floor in the past, and I think one reason why I've had trouble in the past making those look good is because I was only using 2 shades rather than 3. So that's just a tip if you're interested. So you can see that I'm working on the ballroom now, and that throughout the main part of the house, I use mostly the pink that's on the exterior and this Vintage Glamour gold and black wallpaper. I really wanted to use one of the new wall textures that we got with Get Famous, but I don't know, I just couldn't seem to make it work with the exterior of the house and also with the particular spaces that I was trying to fill. So I do use some of the Get Famous wall textures upstairs, but yeah, I'm gonna have to do a lot more builds that feature Get Famous, just because like there's so much content, and I don't really feel like I used it for all that it's worth in this build. I don't even think that I used the bougie only items for all that they're worth in this build. But I am still really happy with how this build came out, and I'm really glad that I'm having that problem, because I don't know, it just means that this pack has a lot of longevity. Even if I'm only building with it, it means that there are a ton of creations that are gonna come out of it. So yeah, it's a good problem to have. Anyway, like I said, I'm not going to talk too much about the interior of this build because you can kind of just see what's happening. What else has been going on in my life, in case you're interested? Not too much else. I have gotten significantly stronger at work. So I work at a theater, and then I also work for another lighting company. And at that lighting company, I have to do a lot of tech work on moving lights, all of which weigh around like 50 to 80 pounds. And I am a pretty small woman, and that's a lot of weight to lift. And not only are they heavy, but they're just big and bulky. Like, most of these lights are, you know, half of my height. And so to lift something that is half my height, you know, to my chest height, it's hard to maneuver. But I have started to develop methods that help me transfer these lights to where I need to hang them and to where I need to store them. And like I said, I've also gotten significantly stronger. I've also gotten a lot of calluses on my hands, so it's made it not like hurt so much when I lift them. I do also have a lot of scrapes on my hands from when I get the lifting of the lights wrong, but it has been going a lot easier. And it's also cool because each of these lights is really expensive, and because they're moving lights, so because they're lights that are really innovative and that can do a lot of stuff, the knowledge that I'm gaining about what each light does and what its advantages are, what its disadvantages are, is going to be really useful to me in the future. But yeah, so I have been working that job, been getting better at it, been getting stronger. What else have I been doing? I've also been reading a book about electricity and power, because if I want to work as a lead tech in the future, I'm going to need to know about those things for the sake of, you know, making all of the lights work, and also for the safety of the crew. So that's been a little boring, but it's really fascinating learning about electricity. It's really fascinating. Electricity is magic. It honestly is. The more I know about it, the more I feel that that's true. I've also been reading Dune, the series, the science fiction series. I am currently on the 3rd book. I just started the 3rd book, and it's trippy. If you don't know what Dune is about, like I said, it's a science fiction series, and it takes place in the far future, and the story involves many planets. But the main planet that's featured in the novels is the planet Dune. It's actually called Arrakis, but some people call it Dune because it is a desert planet where there are a lot of sand dunes. And in this desert planet, in the deserts of this desert planet, there are these giant sandworms that just swim through the sand everywhere. The sandworms are huge. They're supposed to be like 100 meters in diameter. I can't even imagine what that is supposed to look like. When I ride the metro and I see like the metro coming through the tunnel, I think like that is the closest idea I have to what the sandworms on Dune look like. But anyway, the sandworms on Dune, something about them creates like this drug that allows people to see the future, which is like really addictive and also like a really useful substance in this universe where they're traveling at the speed of light. So yeah, there's this desert planet with these magical sandworms that poop or sweat out all of this spice that everybody's got to have. And the main character of Dune is this young boy named Paul Atreides, whose father is given Dune as a fiefdom by a corrupt emperor. And eventually, like, Paul does some things and he becomes emperor and Dune becomes like the ruling planet of the universe. But yeah, it's pretty interesting read. If you're really into science fiction, I think it's like something that every sci-fi nerd has to read eventually. Although I will say that I have tried to read Dune several times. I think I've started it like 5 times, but just lost interest in it because it just, I don't know, it was really slow at the beginning. And also the author, Frank Herbert, I don't know his name. He has this habit of not including coordinating conjunctions in his sentences, so he leaves out and, but, and or quite a lot, which makes it so that you have to reread a lot of his sentences. So I don't know why he does that, but yeah, like I said, I had to restart Dune several times before I finally like got far enough into it that I felt really like captured by it. But it's funny that now that I am familiar with Dune and with the story and the premise and all of the characters in it, I see references for it everywhere. Like almost every day I will see some sort of random Dune reference. I've actually been reading Dune mostly on my morning and evening commutes, and I did try to listen to Grimes's Getty Prime, which is supposed to be, I think it was her first album actually, and it's supposed to be all about Dune, but that was a little too trippy for a morning commute, so I only did that a couple times, but yeah, it's been pretty interesting. So yeah, that's what's been going on in my life. The Nutcracker, I've been getting stronger from lifting up really heavy lights, and I've been reading about electricity and about Dune. I am such a nerd, aren't I? How are you all doing? How is the holiday season going for you? Are you someone who's a big fan of the holidays, or could you not really care? For me, like, honestly, like, the holidays are meh. Like, I'm not really that into them, partly because my family lives in another state, and so, I don't know, I just don't do much with the holidays because of that. There's nothing about the holiday season that makes me sad. I know that's the case for a lot of people, which it really sucks to have to go through that every year. But yeah, I'm just kind of meh about it. I get sort of excited for Christmas. I am going to be doing a couple of Christmas builds, but, you know, I'm not like a gigantic diehard fan of the holiday season. I do want to get a Christmas tree sometime soon. I've been telling my boyfriend that we really need to get one because last year we didn't live together, but he came to visit me around Christmas time. And we got a tree together and we got our first decorations for that tree. So I really want to get a tree so we can put those up again. We also made some ornaments last year, just like, you know, really amateur arts and craftsy ornaments, but it was really fun, so I'd like to do that again this year. I also just really enjoy having a tree in the house because I find the smell and the lights just really relaxing. My cat finds them really relaxing too. She doesn't try to like tear down the tree or climb around in it or break any of the ornaments by batting them around or whatever. She just kind of like sits there and blinks at it. So I imagine that it makes her feel relaxed too. But yeah, so I'm not like a huge fan of the holidays, but I do want a tree just because I find having a tree in the house to be pretty relaxing. Oh, one more thing about the holidays. If you have any good gift ideas, please let me know in the comments because I don't really go like all out with gift giving and with celebrating the holidays, but I would like to get my family something I would really like to get them something that they could do together, like a board game or something, but I don't know. I just haven't really found anything that has made me think, oh yeah, they would love that. The closest thing that I found was this subscription service called, I think it's Mystery Box or My Mystery Box. It's this subscription service where you're mailed several sets of packages, and all of those packages unveil some sort of mystery story. So that's the closest thing that I could think of, but it's pretty expensive, and it seems like for some reason that particular subscription service has some sort of holiday thing going on where they're only mailing you the whole package, not the package in increments, which is like half the fun, right? The getting mail part. So I don't know. I think it might be too expensive, and also like that aspect of it is kind of turning me away from it. But yeah, if you have any ideas about gifts that would be good for a whole family, some sort of activity that they could do together, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, if you'd like to download this build, like I said, it's available on the gallery. I really hope that you like this build. I'm sorry, again, that it took me so long to upload this video. Like I said, I just got overwhelmed with everything, and also because this house is gigantic, it did take me a really long time to complete. But I hope that you enjoyed this speed build nevertheless. I will try to get another one out much sooner than this one took me. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I've missed talking to you guys, but I will talk to you in another video very soon. Goodbye!